Hi, beautiful souls. I'm Coach Rachel Lynn. And before I start my video today, I want to thank all of my subscribers. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate you taking the time and sharing my content, reviewing it. And I hope that you find it helpful and that it resonates with you in an inspiring way. Thank you, subscribers. Also, what I'm going to talk about today is some material from the book that I wrote called Drive Yourself Successful 11 Inner States to Personal Empowerment. And the first chapter, or what I call inner state, is called Clean Out Your Trunk. All right, so when I speak to audiences, one of the first things that I ask them to do is to picture themselves as an automobile. All right. So, what I'm going to do is give you an opportunity to think about this for just a minute. If you were any type of automobile, first of all, what would you be? What would be your make and model? What color would you be? How smoothly are you operating? Are you accelerating to your full potential, or are you stranded beside the road somewhere? Are you, shiny and clean and fancy looking, or are you kind of beat up and kind of worn out, so to say? So just take just a minute to think about what you would look like if you were an automobile. All right, so usually I get some fun answers with this, and the first question I usually ask is, how many red sports cars do I have in the audience? Or, and I go around and have people comment. It's actually a fun little activity, but I think it's really, inspiring to look at ourselves in a way that has analogies, right? So we can get these clear pictures in our head and have that opportunity for introspection, to really take an opportunity to look at ourselves and do a self assessment, because that's super important on the road of life. How are we? How are we functioning? Are we on the path that we want to be, or are we stranded somewhere beside the road? So, if you guys want to leave in the comments what type of automobile you saw yourself as, please feel free to do that. We can have some fun with that. And usually I really do with the audiences. We get some really cool answers of how people see themselves. So anyway, regardless of how you saw yourself, there's always room for improvements. Right? So we're all on this path. We don't just get there one day and we stop and we know it all, or we have reached our highest potential. We are all in a constant state of evolving and growth. So no matter how you see yourself at the current moment, there's always room for improvement. And as a therapist, I encourage people to look at themselves and observe themselves with awareness, but without judgment. So when we look at ourselves, we don't want to judge ourselves or put ourselves down in a negative manner, because that doesn't accelerate us at all. Right? So when you look at yourself and you're doing that introspection, do it from a place of awareness, not judgment. All right, so let's hop on the first inner state, which I call clean out your trunk. All right, so for many people, loss, past failures, broken relationships, um, a lot of different things and circumstances that happen in people's lives can really, really weigh them down and keep them from moving forward on the road of life. There's many different things that can happen that can get stored, so to say, in people's trunk that keeps them from moving forward. And so many people are sitting curbside on the road of life due to these experiences that they've had that have somehow like caused them to run out of gas or deflated them in a way that they don't feel that they can accelerate. So if you think about the trunk of your car, there's probably many items that are stored back there that you don't look at on a daily basis. However, they are traveling with you everywhere that you go, whether you are consciously aware of those items or not. So it's important to be able to examine those things that may be stored in your trunk that are holding you back or keeping you from moving forward. And it's equally important to know what should be stored in your trunk in times that you feel like you're about to break down, need a boost, or you may need to help someone else on the road of life as well. So we'll talk about those on the second part of this presentation. So um, first thing, and as a therapist, I've worked with countless individuals who have experienced this, and perhaps you as well have experienced this. But words, words are one of the things that can be stored in people's trunk that really holds them back and keeps them from moving forward. And most of the time, these words come from people that we really care about. Maybe it's from a parent or a partner or a sibling or a grandparent or just anyone that we're really close to that may have said something to us that has just kind of stayed stored that kind of haunts us, right? It weighs us down. It gives a opinion of ourselves that may not be accurate. So, if you are one of those people who have had this experience and someone has said something to you that just kind of replays over and over in your mind, and you've used that to define yourself, and it is holding you back in some way from achieving the things that you desire to achieve, then let's really look at those things and bring them to the forefront instead of allowing them to just travel with us every road that we take. So, words are very powerful. And again, they most often come from people that we really care about. That's why it's so impactful and long lasting. All right. So, another thing that may be stored in people's trunks is loss. Loss is something we all experience in some form or another. We may lose a loved one, a parent, a spouse, a child, a friend. It could be a job. It could be loss of a previous level of functioning due to illness or, in an accident in some sort of way. But loss is one of those things that people may have stored in their trunks that are really weighing them down. And as a therapist and having had worked with a lot of individuals who've experienced loss of various types, it can stay with them their entire lives in a manner that is not successfully navigated through those stages of grief. All right. And one of the things that I've also found is that when people experience some type of loss, there's a lot of thoughts that go through people's head that weigh them down, that ruminates, that they think about over and over, and that really dictates the road that they're on in life and how smoothly and effectively they are operating or running on this road of life, so to say. So, sometimes people feel guilty, right? So when we think about the stages of grief, guilt is one of those stages. So a lot of times people lose someone that they really care about, and they get held up in just this overwhelming amount of guilt. And I have seen people carry this with them for years. I'm talking 20 years, 30 years, that is really holding them back and keeping them from being happy and fulfilled and at peace, more so than anything, at peace in their lives. So, loss is a big area that may be stored in people's trunks that are keeping them from moving forward. And as I go through these examples, I just want you to, reflect on your life and things that may be stored in your trunk. And if any of these pertain to you, and if so, how do we work through that to kind of clean out that trunk, so to say? Um, Past failures. That's another area that people really get hung up on, right? So everybody fails at something. Some of us multiple times, lots of times. This is kind of part of life. And what people don't really understand about success is that it is going from failure to failure to failure until you actually make it, right? So there's a quote that says, success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Can't remember who said that, but I can't take credit for that. But there's a quote that says that, and that's so very true, right? So a lot of times when people fail at something, they assume or tell themselves that they are a failure. And then that inhibits their willingness to take risks, to do the things that they want to do or achieve the things that they want to achieve. So just remember, if you failed at something, That doesn't make you a failure, because failure is a part of success. You just have to dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and keep going, right? So there's several things that could be stored in people's trunk that's weighing them down. So let's flip the script a little bit and think about what should be stored in people's trunks in times that they feel that they may be about to break down, or maybe need a boost, or need to be available for someone else, for another driver that may need some assistance, some roadside assistance, so to say. So, it can happen to the best of us when we least expect it. We get in our car, we turn the key, and nothing happens. The car doesn't start due to a dead battery. All right. So this happens to us on the road of life. We let the stress of life build up over time without effectively managing or dealing with it. And we drain our own batteries, right? We have this inability to get started or to keep going. So, one of the big items that is necessary to be stored in your trunk is jumper cables. Because this is something that you may need or could offer a great deal of assistance to someone else who finds themselves with a dead battery. But here's the important thing to know about jumper cables: they require a positive battery to connect with, because there's nothing worse than two dead batteries trying to get somewhere. It's not going to happen. So think about the people that you are surrounding yourself with in your life. Would you consider them battery chargers or battery drainers? And sometimes we have to really make some, hard decisions about the people that we surround ourselves with, right? So if we are in a relationship, or if it's a family member or a friend that is constantly negative, constantly critical, bringing us down, and you can feel the life just being sucked out of you when you're around that person or when you talk to that person, that may be someone that you need to consider, um, you know, not being around, right? We pick up hitchhikers sometimes, and if they're draining us or they're harmful to us, sometimes we got to let them out of the car. And what's hurtful is when it is someone that's really close to us. But you owe it to yourself to protect your own energy. And unfortunately, sometimes the biggest battery drainers can be family members, friends, or even an intimate partner. So just know that in order to get a boost on the road of life, to continue to run effectively, you need to connect with a positive energy, positive people that can help boost you and accelerate you instead of draining you. And another thing to think about is, how draining are you on other people's batteries? Are you someone that's going around complaining a lot? Are you criticizing yourself or putting yourself down? Because that makes people not want to be around you, and you may lose some very important relationships from that level of negativity. So when I talk about introspection, I'm talking about taking a real close look at how you're operating and see if there's any areas that need some maintenance or a tune up. And again, we're looking at these things with awareness, not judgment. And that's super important. All right. So, another item that is actually recommended that people store in their trunks is duct tape. So, I don't know if any of you have duct tape. I've never actually had duct tape in the trunk of my car, but it's actually pretty cool because you may find yourself in a sticky situation on the road of life. So it's actually recommended that drivers carry duct tape in the trunk of their cars. So if you think about this question, and I use a lot of analogies because I think it works with people, is how many times do you wish that someone would have had duct tape to place on someone else's mouth that just wouldn't seem to put on the brakes, and they were full of negativity, hate, anything, bad vibes, whatever you want to call it. How many people have you been around you wish there was some duct tape that you could just you know, shut them up, so to say? But also think about this, how many times do you wish that you would have had duct tape for something that you said that maybe you didn't mean, or that came out totally wrong, or something that really may have cost you a job or a relationship that was important to you? So those are all examples of, that self awareness of, being able to put the duct tape on sometimes when we say things or how we're interacting with other people. But also, one thing with the duct tape is that it's important that we watch our own thoughts. All right. So our thoughts are what is fueling us on this road of life. All right. So we run on our thinking. So if you find that you are putting yourself down, that you are very negative, that you're telling yourself you can't do something, or you're not worthy, or you're not lovable because of one of those things that's been stored in your trunk, or perhaps some of those words that someone has said to you that still haunt you to this day, that's traveling around on this road of life everywhere that you're going, bring out that duct tape, right? Like enough is enough. And sometimes you have to get to that point where you draw the line for yourself and not allow yourself to continue on that frame of thought. And, because it's going to end up curbside on the road of life. Okay. So pay attention to your thoughts and think positive thoughts, encouraging thoughts. And if they do not serve you to your greatest good, get rid of them. Let them go. Let them out of the car. Put the duct tape on those thoughts, because you want to stick to positive self-talk instead. All right, so we've talked about some things that may be stored in your trunk that are keeping you from moving forward. And I think most people have something, right? People say junk in the trunk. Well, this is not good junk in the trunk. This is things that are really inhibiting people's lives and that can easily be changed and fixed with a little maintenance and a little work. All right. So words, past failures, loss, lots of different things. And perhaps you've even thought of some other items, that may be stored in your trunk that you really need to take a look at and kind of shine the light on those and bring them out to the surface, because that's how you deal with it. You bring it out of the dark, you look at it, you examine it without judgment, but awareness, and then relocate those items to a place that are no longer weighing you down. So we've talked about just a couple of items that you may need to store in your trunk in case you're about to break down. And we talked about jumper cables, being able to connect to positive people, positive energy, but also being that positive energy for those people around you. All right. So there's many other items that could be stored in your trunk, and perhaps any comments that you guys want to add, feel free to do that. I usually get some interesting comments when I do face-to-face presentations with people, and people really roll with the car analogy. So once you get started, it's kind of just keeps going, and that's what the book Drive Yourself Successful, the theme is. It uses the analogy of a car to help people see how they're functioning and in areas that they may need some maintenance and improvements. All right. So I hope that you have got your wheels turning as to some self-assessment in here and some things that you may need to add to your trunk in those times that you feel that you are about to break down or run out of gas. And I hope that the content that I share is meaningful to you and inspiring. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and stay tuned because there'll be more interstates that we'll talk about from the book, and we'll roll on with the car analogy. If you haven't subscribed and you like this content, please hit the subscribe button so that you can be aware when I post new videos. And I don't want you to miss any. All right. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and have a blessed day.